Stop guessing. Start winning.
Welcome back to the Double Digit Covers YouTube channel. I'm Mark Hoke.
And I'm Tony Dose.
We're going to be talking about a topic that people don't really understand how it truly affects sports betting. And Tony, that's the weather. Tell everybody a little bit about how weather really should be or not be affecting your game.
Yeah, well, I think that weather is something that I think people oversimplify. I think that a lot of bettors amateur bettors anyway, like to look at a situation like a snow game, a game in the snow or in the rain, and think that that's a dead under. And all I'm here to say today is that that's a big mistake. That's not always the case. Weather is not always the primary factor that indicates the outcome of a game.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring that up because so many people think, well, if it's going to be snowing that day, that somebody's not going to be able to throw the ball, they're going to have to run, and it's going to change everything. But in a lot of cases, it actually doesn't.
It doesn't, right. I mean, there are a handful of teams, Pittsburgh Steelers, for example, New England Patriots, playing Green Bay Packers, obviously, playing poor weather all the time. They're generally built to play in those conditions. And so the weather doesn't necessarily affect the outcome of their performance a whole lot, whereas a team maybe like Tampa Bay or dome teams like the Minnesota Vikings may not perform quite as well in those weather conditions, partly because they're not used to it. Secondly, their teams aren't necessarily built for that. Generally those warm weather teams are built more for a passing game, which is, a situation that could be more adversely affected in poor weather conditions.
So when you see these games coming up, Tony, that the weather is going to be really bad, what are some of the advice that you give guys when they come to talk to you and say, how should I handle this?
Well, first I look at the makeup of the teams that are playing in the poor weather conditions. Like I said, teams like Pittsburgh, teams like New England generally play pretty well in poor weather because they're built that way. And so I think this is where you got to look at individual team strengths and weaknesses. And teams that generally have strong running game, good offensive line play, going to perform well in poor weather, regardless of where they play, whether it's in warm weather in a dome. You look at teams like San Francisco, seems like teams like the Dallas Cowboys generally play pretty well in poor weather. They're built that way.
That's why you've got to listen to this guy, Tony Dose. Of course, getting great advice once again on the weather from the man himself, Tony Dose here at DoubleDigitCovers.com. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at Double Digit Covers. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Mark A. Hoke.
You can follow me on Twitter as well at Tony Dose Wins. And if you want a free pick of the day texted directly to you, log on to DoubleDigitCovers.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Stop guessing. Start winning.